Hey YouTube, it's Pump. 10.2 introduced some changes to Fire Mage, and I want to give my full updated guide on how our class is playing and performing. Let's jump into the positives and negatives since 10.1.5. Starting out with the positives, number one is that it is very easy to get high haste because it's near the end of an expansion. Fire Mage plays a lot better when you get very high levels of haste, and just because it's the end of expansion, we have more access to easily accessible haste. Number two is that Belor'relos is extremely fun and satisfying when you get it off of Tindral. I've been testing this trinket, and you'll see it in my AoE clips and in single target clips. It is extremely fun and the most fun trinket I can think of since Soul Igniter from Shadowlands. The last point is that we are still very, very good in large AoE. On some polls, like on Galakron's Fall, when they pull the whole room at the start, I'm still pulling over a mill in that pack, and we're still owning an AoE. Moving on to the negatives, the number one negative and the most noticeable negative is that the tier set changes make us conserve more for our combusts. So last tier set gave us more charges of Phoenix Flames, and we could just spend, and it felt like you never ran out of charges on anything. But if you spend like that now, you will run out of charges, and your combusts can feel awkward, especially if you aren't at high levels of haste. Number two is that the Bis Trinket for us in single target and AoE is very rare from last boss. There's no trinket that even comes close to the amount of damage Augury gives us, so that kind of sucks, but any passive trinket will still suffice until you get Augury from the last boss in your vault or from the boss itself. The last point is that the average Fire Mage got significantly worse because of these tier changes. So before, Fire Mage was simply just an APM test, and you didn't have to really put any thought into your combusts. It was just, oh, I have combust, or oh, I have SKB, let's spend. But now you kind of have to think, I have combust coming up soon. I should be holding my Fire Blast charges and my Phoenix Flames charges a bit so that I make sure that I have resources to spend during combust. Moving on to stat weights, Critical Strike got a lot better because of our new tier set, and becomes even better after you get the Augury trinket. Look to get as much haste and versatility as possible, and after Augury, sim your stats to see what you should replace with crit. Essentially, just ignore mastery as much as you possibly can, and you can't go wrong. Moving on to crafted gear, the first two crafts you should make, in my opinion, are belt and cape, both with embellishment. Right as of this video, I only have 2 sparks. After this video, anytime after that, you can definitely prioritize weapons, especially if you haven't gotten lucky with drops. Our best staff by a long shot comes from Galakron's Fall. I have run it like 20 times now or something, and I haven't been able to drop the staff. But once you get that, it's definitely Bis. That on use is really, really good for fire. But we craft cape and belt because it's the lowest stat prio. Crafted items were nerfed this season, and as you can see, they're 3 eye levels below what the max eye level is now. So that means we want to put them at the lowest stat weight spots and then slap the embellishments on there so that we can ignore them. Moving on to trinkets, you want 1 on use and 1 passive trinket with Fire Mage in its current state. Our best trinkets by far are Belor'relos, which comes from Tindral, and then Augury, which this is where Augury would be if I had it. Augury comes from Fyrakk, and that's our passive trinket. So for other viable trinkets, you could run Mirror from Rise, which is a 3-minute CD, kind of meh. You could get Spindle from Naimu, but it gives us Mastery, and Mastery kind of is meh as well. Balefire is also viable, which is very good on Arcane, but doesn't get as much value on Fire. And then for passive trinkets, you could farm out a Taldazar for Vessel, Darkheart for the Oakheart's Root, which is what I dropped and got lucky on. And the only other passive trinket in contention is probably Pips from Council, but I don't think that's very good on us, and you should prio someone else most likely in your raid. Moving into our rotation, I'm going to start off with single target in Firestarter. So Firestarter guarantees our crits above 90% HP. It's used on a couple bosses in raid. I'll go over talent-specific stuff after this section, but I want to open this with an objective for you to make it as straightforward as possible, and that is that in Combust, you want to get out as many Pyroblasts as possible to do the most damage. That is what we're essentially trying to do in a nutshell, and I'm still going to do the play-by-play walkthrough, but I think that objective helped me a lot when I was first learning Fire. I'm going to showcase our single target in Double Lust with Firestarter to start this. So on pull, you're going to Belor'relos, and then blink in, and then double lust, and now you're building up SKB. So I did Phoenix Flames, Pyro, Fire Blast, Pyro, Fire Blast, Pyro, shifting power to get it all back. Fire Blast, Pyro, Fire Blast, Pyro, Fire Blast, Pyro. And at the end, I decided DB. It's completely fine. DB, Pyro. And then we're in SKB. Double Pyro with Combust just before the cast goes off. Now we're in full Combust. I'm spending Fire Blast, Pyro, Phoenix Flames, Pyro. If you're out of one, then you spam the other. Fire Blast, Pyro, Phoenix Flames, Pyro. And now I'm out of charges, so I Scorch Fill. Scorch Fill. Now I have SKB. I prep double Pyro. Double Pyro. Fire Blast, Pyro. Scorch. Pyro. Fire Blast, Pyro. Out of charges, so I'm Scorching. Pyro. Fire Blast, Pyro. Out of charges again, so I Scorch Fill. I have SKB. Double Pyro. And then Phoenix Flames. Fire Blast, Pyro. DB because it's a crit. Fire Blast, Pyro. Scorch, Pyro. Fire Blast, Pyro. So in that showcase, I was at around 300k in Double Lust with a Belor'relos crit at around 479 eye level. I don't have Augury, but the process of learning Fire Mage is just learning the muscle memory of this exact rotation in a bunch of different scenarios. Here's the written process of Fire Mage's core rotation in single target. So the first step we did there was we built SKB, and then we used shifting power to get some of our charges back in the process of building that SKB. We hardcast SKB with Combust near the end of the cast to get that 18-second Combust that gets a lot of value. When we're in Combust, we're looking to alternate Fire Blast, Pyro, Phoenix Flames, Pyro until you're out of charges on one of them. If you're out of charges on it, fully spend the other and look to fill with DB and Scorch. And then you always instantly spend SKB, try and double Pyro if you're not fully out of Fire Blast charges. So now I'm going to showcase our single target without Firestarter and without Lust. So for this showcase, I'm going to use the dungeon build that I'll go over in the talents later, but essentially it's just no Firestarter and you're running all the Flamestrike stuff. So I'm going to live record this. So when you're entering single target Combust with no Lust, you're just starting Combust with a cast, and then I instantly Phoenix Flames, and now I'm just doing Fire Blast, Pyro, Fire Blast, Pyro, Fire Blast, Pyro. Phoenix Flames, Fire Blast, Pyro, Phoenix Flames, Pyro, Phoenix Flames, Pyro. Now I have an SKB. I prep double Pyro, Scorch Fill because I was out of charges, Fire Blast, Pyro, Phoenix Flames, Pyro. And now I'm back to just spamming Fireball until I crit. Spam Fireball until I crit. Fire Blast when we get it. Got lucky. And here's another SKB. Spend. And just repeat the process over and over again until Combusts back. So here's the written version of the no Firestarter, no Lust opener. It is very similar to the Lust opener. It's just the rotation slowed down with no SKB building. So you open Combust during a cast, and then you're just doing your Combust rotation, doing Fire Blast, Pyro, Phoenix Flames, Pyro, until you're out of charges, and then you fill with Scorch and DB. So now I want to showcase the double Lust rotation with Flamestrike in AoE. So you're going to do the same exact thing you did in single target. You are going to Belor'relos on pull and then enter double Lust. But we're entering Combust pretty quickly here. So I do Phoenix Flames and then enter Combust, and then I Fire Blast and then Flamestrike. So now I'm just doing Fire Blast, Flamestrike, Fire Blast, Flamestrike, Fire Blast, Flamestrike. And now I'm out of charges, so I Meteor. Then I Phoenix Flames, Flamestrike, Fire Blast, Flamestrike, Fire Blast, Flamestrike, Phoenix Flames, Flamestrike. Now I'm at an SKB. I hold my hands and hardcast the Flamestrike, double Flamestrike, Fire Blast, Flamestrike, Fire Blast, Flamestrike, Phoenix Flames, Flamestrike, Phoenix Flames, Flamestrike, DB, Flamestrike, Fire Blast, Flamestrike, Fire Blast, Flamestrike, hardcast the SKB, Fire Blast, Flamestrike, Phoenix Flames, Flamestrike, Fire Blast, Flamestrike, and then shifting power when we're out of charges. But as you guys can see, it plays out exactly the same as single target, except you're just replacing your spender. your spender changes from Pyroblast to now Flamestrike spam. It is fundamentally the same exact thing in AoE, except you just replace one button in your rotation. Now I want to quickly go over the AoE rotation outside of Lust. I'm going to live record this one as well. So you're going to open on a pack, hard casting Flamestrike, combust near the end, Fireblast, Flamestrike, Fireblast, Flamestrike, Fireblast, Flamestrike, Phoenix Flames, Flamestrike, Fireblast, Flamestrike, Meteor when the group is all packed and stable, when they're not moving, Phoenix Flames, Flamestrike, Fireblast, Flamestrike. We have SKB, Flamestrike, Phoenix Flames, Flamestrike, Fireblast, Flamestrike, Phoenix Flames, Flamestrike, and now we're out of charges. So now we are just spending on Flamestrike. Usually I aggressively spend, but now after the tier changes, there will be times where it's proper to hard cast Flamestrike as opposed to just spending all your charges all the time to build up another SKB. So like right here, you should be Flamestrike spamming to build up one crit, just like that, and now you charge spend. And now you have charges going into this little SKB. So to sum that up, we're entering Combust on a hardcast Flamestrike if the dungeon allows. If you have to move your feet all the time, can't obviously hardcast the Flamestrike, so you can enter Combust on a Scorch or something like that. When you're in Combust, you're alternating Fireblast, Flamestrike, Phoenix Flames, Flamestrike until you're out of charges on one, and then alternate, just like single target, except you're replacing Pyroblast with Flamestrike. And then you always instantly spend SKB with Flamestrike. Remember to hold your hands when you're hardcasting the Flamestrike with SKB. And then the last little note, be aware of your Phoenix Flames and Fireblast charges more so than last season, especially when you're going to Combust. It matters less with SKB, but going to Combust, you got to make sure that you have some charges in the bank, as opposed to where last season you could just go in with 0 and you'll be okay. I want to make a quick little note on Belor'relos. So for proper usage of Belor'relos, you want to use it immediately when you enter combat because it doesn't scale with Combust or anything like that. You shouldn't use Belor'relos in Combust, even though it does say fire damage. It doesn't scale like that, and you're kind of wasting Combust because you'd be casting it during while you're inside it. The Mage Discord confirmed this. So your first Belor'relos in Rage should just be on pull with Lust or just on pull, and then you're using it on cooldown every time after that. As soon as it comes up, you're just going up in melee and going crazy. And I crit. It crits 1.4 mil for me at 476 heroic. So have fun with this trinket. Moving on to single target talents, your single target tree is going to look very, very similar across all bosses, with like 1 or 2 changes. So the change you're going to make is you're going to remove Firestarter for either Meteor or for Controlled Destruction. If it is a boss you do not lust on pull, but it's single target, then you would run Controlled Destruction instead. Or if it's a fight where you want AoE, you would flex Firestarter for Meteor on something like Tindril or Gnawroot, where there's ads that come out during the fight and Meteor would get value. As far as the Mage tree goes, there are some really nice pickups for Mage utility in Raid. So obviously you don't need Decurse or Spell Steal inside of Raid, but for ad grouping on Laradar, you can bonk one of the guys way far away when Phase 3 is happening. This Volatile Detonation Blast Wave buff makes it really, really good for crowd control. It is very good there, and on Fire for the Phase 2 line ads. Every mage should be running Volatile Detonation on Fire and debatably on Laradar. Moving on to AoE talents. So on the mage side, I switch out for Spell Steal and remove Curse. If you're really min-maxing at like the highest key levels possible, you'll know dungeon to dungeon whether or not you'll need Spell Steal or Decurse, and you could technically take off something and switch it to Arcane Warding or whatever if you're playing min-maxy. But in general, I genuinely just run the same exact AoE build everywhere I go. So all we do is we change the single target stuff that we ran on this side, like Firestarter and Control Destruction, all that stuff. We switch it for these 3 talents on the Flamestrike side to allow Flamestrike to crit. That's quite literally it. Everything else stays the same. I want to end this video by doing 3 tips that I have for Fire Mages. Number 1 actually asks a question, which is, why do Fire Mages jump all the time? I get this question all the time in my comments. There is a use for jumping or strafing all the time, and we do it so we don't accidentally hardcast an ability when we don't want to. This lets us spam the keys that we want to press in advance without starting a hard cast through spell queuing. So something like double pyro would be very hard or not possible at all if you were holding completely still, because you would hard cast a pyroblast when you need that other pyro to hit first. So jumping around makes it so you could double pyro essentially. Number 2 is try to think of the class like a generator / spender. Fireball is your generator until a crit in single target, and then you spend with Fire Blast and Pyro. Never double Fire Blast to get a Pyro out. The last tip I have is to understand that building muscle memory for Fire Mage takes a lot of time. You will not be parsing overnight. Stay consistent with it and you will see long-term success. For reference, in Sepulcher, I completely averaged a gray parse throughout the entire tier. And last tier, I averaged purple throughout the tier. I improved a lot last year. So if you stick with it, you will see success. It just takes a long time to build that muscle memory. That will do it for this video. If this video helped you in any way on Fire Mage, please subscribe or check out my Patreon where you can get log reviews and support my content further. Thank you guys, and I'll catch you in the next video.